the Caribbean became an empire of death, where every pirate victory led to another shipwreck, betrayal, epidemic, execution, or unmarked grave beneath the waves, until the sea itself destroyed the outlaws who once ruled it, leaving only shattered hulls, rusting cannon, and forgotten skeletons to prove that the Golden Age of Piracy ended not in glory, but in one of history's greatest maritime catastrophes. Enjoy the video, and don't forget to subscribe. Trace your finger along the map from the Bahamas to the Windward Passage, and imagine the warm Atlantic wind carrying the smell of rotting oak, boiling pine tar, damp hemp rope, stagnant bilge water, and lingering sulfur drifting across gray waves after another brutal engagement. Listen to snapping canvas echoing through the rigging, while dead eyes creak beneath enormous tension, and weathered blocks groan against the tumble home of a pirate sloop, displacing nearly 100 tons. Picture the year 1718, when the Caribbean no longer resembled a paradise of turquoise water, but an expanding maritime cemetery where every reef concealed shattered hulls, and every sheltered anchorage carried memories of slaughter. Pirate captains understood every current flowing through the old Bahama Channel, every hidden shoal surrounding Tortuga, and every seasonal hurricane capable of destroying entire convoys without firing a single cannon. Their vessels relied upon massive live oak futtocks adjoined with hand-forged iron spikes exceeding 11 inches in length, while seams packed with twisted oakum were sealed beneath boiling pine tar during repeated careening operations along isolated beaches. Yet even the strongest hull slowly weakened beneath tropical heat, salt crystallization, shipworm infestation, and relentless wave stress. Merchant captains feared not merely black flags, but the silence following them, because abandoned cargo barrels, broken yards, floating hammocks, and drifting bodies often appeared long before survivors reached civilization. Across these waters, piracy transformed ordinary sea lanes into corridors of death, where commerce, war, greed, and survival collided so violently that entire islands gained reputations as places where no sailor expected to grow old. Every pirate attack began long before the first cannon fired, because experienced lookouts studied massed silhouettes through polished spyglasses from dawn until sunset, estimating displacement, sail plan, cargo weight, and defensive capability from miles away. Fast sloops carrying between 10 and 16 carriage guns frequently avoided prolonged bombardment, preferring to preserve valuable hull planking while closing rapidly under favorable wind angles. Their broadside batteries commonly employed bronze cannon, containing approximately 88% copper and 12% tin. Metals selected because repeated firing generated fewer catastrophic fractures than cast iron. Powder charges consisted of carefully graded serpentine or corned black powder containing roughly 75% potassium nitrate, 15% charcoal, and 10% sulfur. Once ignited by glowing slow match, the combustion produced expanding gases that hurled solid iron round shot through merchant bulwarks with astonishing force, splintering dense oak into thousands of razor-sharp fragments that frequently killed more sailors than the cannonball itself. Pirate boarding parties then crossed using grappling hooks secured around channels and chain plates, rushing across blood-soaked decks with cutlasses, boarding axes, and flintlock pistols, while articles of agreement promised equal shares to ordinary crewmen willing to risk death. Ships refusing surrender often suffered catastrophic structural damage as shattered cap rails collapsed, gun tackles snapped beneath recoil, and shattered futtocks transferred violent impacts throughout the hull, leaving vessels barely capable of remaining afloat even after the battle ended. As the years passed, the sea itself became an accomplice in the destruction, because hundreds of damaged ships never reached a friendly harbor after surviving pirate attacks. Tiny leaks hidden beneath the waterline widened with every Atlantic swell, until exhausted pumps could no longer remove the incoming water. Bilges filled with foul mixtures of seawater, spoiled provisions, blood, and loose ballast, while humidity rotted deck beams from within. Tropical shipworms bored relentlessly into exposed timber, weakening planks that had already endured repeated cannon impacts and emergency repairs. During hurricane season, usually between June and November, winds exceeding 100 miles per hour tore away topsails, snapped masts, measuring more than 70 feet above the keel, and drove helpless vessels onto coral reefs, sharp enough to rip open oak hulls within minutes. Entire convoys disappeared without witnesses, leaving only shattered spars, floating casks, and waterlogged corpses drifting toward distant beaches. Pirates suffered the same fate they inflicted upon others, for their lightly built sloops sacrificed durability for speed, and constant overloading with stolen cargo strained every frame. Many captains delayed proper careening because each day spent repairing seams meant another day without plunder, allowing marine growth, leaking caulking, and hidden structural decay to spread until one violent storm transformed a feared raider into another anonymous wreck resting beneath the Caribbean, surrounded by rusting cannon, scattered musket balls, broken anchors, and human skeletons slowly disappearing beneath coral growth. Even those who escaped storms rarely escaped one another because pirate society depended upon fragile loyalty, maintained through fear, profit, and carefully negotiated articles of agreement rather than permanent discipline. A successful cruise could fill the hold with sugar, indigo, tobacco, cocoa, silver coin, and bolts of cloth worth thousands of pounds sterling. Yet dividing such wealth almost always created suspicion. Captains chosen by vote could be removed just as quickly if crews believed treasure had been concealed, or prisoners secretly ransomed for personal gain. Alcohol magnified every disagreement, as rum diluted with water became safer than stagnant casks of fresh water already contaminated by algae and bacteria after weeks at sea. Knife fights erupted beneath the orlop deck, where lantern light reflected from damp planking coated with tar, salt, and old blood. Men weakened by scurvy, malaria, yellow fever, dysentery, and infected wounds watched companions die without physicians capable of more than crude amputations, performed with bone saws and heated irons used to cauterize arteries. Letters of marque that had once separated legal privateering from outright piracy no longer offered protection once peace treaties ended, leaving countless former privateers branded as criminals hunted by every naval patrol. The Caribbean became crowded not only with wrecks, but with abandoned anchorages, shallow graves, and forgotten camps where disease accomplished what cannon fire never could, ensuring that entire pirate crews vanished without leaving behind a single surviving witness. By 1721, the British Crown had concluded that scattered patrols could never secure the Caribbean unless piracy itself was systematically dismantled through relentless naval pressure, legal reform, and public terror. Heavily armed frigates displaced between 500 and 700 tons, carrying 28 to 40 guns upon reinforced decks, supported by massive oak knees and closely spaced futtocks, began sweeping routes that pirates had considered untouchable for years. Unlike overloaded pirate sloops, these warships possessed deeper magazines, disciplined gunnery crews, standardized powder charges, and enough provisions to remain at sea for months. Merchant convoys increasingly sailed beneath naval escort, while colonial governors offered royal pardons to those surrendering before specific deadlines, isolating captains who refused mercy. Others faced capture during desperate chases where damaged rigging reduced speed by only a few knots, yet proved fatal across open water. Once imprisoned, pirates encountered admiralty courts, where witness depositions, seized logbooks, and recovered cargo established overwhelming evidence. Convictions usually ended with execution, followed by gibbeting. The corpse, suspended inside an iron cage, overlooking busy harbors until weather, birds, salt, and time reduced flesh to bone. These grim displays transformed coastlines into warnings visible from passing ships, reminding every sailor that the Caribbean had become a graveyard, not only because thousands died upon its waters, but because the Empire intended every remaining pirate to join them. The Golden Age of Piracy ended not with one decisive battle, but through countless deaths scattered across reefs, storms, disease-ridden anchorages, naval engagements, and public executions. Beneath the Caribbean waves remain shattered hulls, corroded cannon, rusted anchors, and silent human remains, marking forgotten tragedies. The sea that once promised unimaginable riches ultimately claimed the pirates themselves, transforming their empire of fear into one vast and unforgiving graveyard.